Have you ever been carrying something heavy inside your mind, but when someone asks if you're okay, the only words that come out are, "I'm fine"? Maybe you've been overwhelmed for weeks. Maybe you've been struggling in silence. And maybe, even when people genuinely offered to help, you politely smiled and said you could handle it yourself. To most people, this looks like independence. It looks like strength. It looks like someone who has everything under control. But psychology suggests there is often something much deeper happening beneath the surface. People who never ask for help are rarely trying to prove they are strong. More often they have simply learned that relying on others doesn't always feel safe. For some, that lesson began early in life. Perhaps they were told to stop crying. Perhaps they were expected to solve their own problems. Or perhaps they reached out once before, only to be ignored, misunderstood, or disappointed. Little by little, they stopped asking. Not because they no longer needed help, but because they stopped believing it would come. Over time, self-reliance became more than a habit. It became protection. Psychologists often describe this as a form of emotional self-preservation. When people experience disappointment repeatedly, the brain begins to expect it. So instead of risking rejection again, they choose silence. From the outside, they appear calm. Inside, they're carrying conversations they never had, questions they never asked, tears they never allowed anyone to see. And here's the surprising part. These are often the very people who help everyone else. They're the first to listen, the first to comfort, the first to show up when someone is struggling. Because they know exactly what it feels like to wish someone had done the same for them. But when their own world begins to fall apart, they quietly tell themselves, "I'll figure it out. I don't want to bother anyone. I'll be okay." Not because they believe it, but because saying those words feels easier than admitting they're hurting. The truth is, asking for help requires something many people overlook. It requires trust. Trust that someone will listen. Trust that someone will stay. Trust that being vulnerable won't be used against you. And for people who have lost that trust, independence can slowly become isolation. They become so used to carrying everything alone that they forget life was never meant to be lived that way. Here's something worth remembering. The strongest people aren't the ones who never need support. They're the ones who understand that strength and vulnerability can exist together. Even the strongest tree depends on deep roots. Even the brightest light needs a source of energy. And every human being, no matter how independent, needs someone they can lean on sometimes. So if you've always found it difficult to ask for help, maybe there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you've simply spent too long believing you had to carry everything by yourself. But you don't. Because the people who truly care about you won't see your struggles as a burden. They'll see them as an opportunity to stand beside you. And perhaps the bravest sentence you'll ever say isn't, "I can do this alone." It's, "I need a little help." If this felt personal, perhaps it's because your mind has been carrying more than anyone realizes. And maybe today is the day you remember something important. You were never meant to carry the weight of the world by yourself.